One, two, three. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome in my new live play, and today we'll go through $10 spin and go stakes. We're gonna two table. Why $10 stakes? I think these are the most crucial when it comes to climbing stakes. This is the level where lots of players get stuck for a long time. This is a moment where lots of regulars appear on tables. So basically it's worth knowing how to adjust well, how to look at some details, how to approach the game. And basically we'll try to do some job. At the beginning, we don't know our opponents. We don't have a HUD, so I'm playing just readless. And this is one of the most important aspects of the optimal strategy. I'm not saying game theory optimal, but optimal strategy, that we rather treat everyone as someone with big leaks, someone who is going to make mistakes. So instead of trying to follow some charts that our opponent is extremely well prepared and he plays perfect game, like look at the reality. Guy is limping at the button, another guy on the left the same, now overbetting the flop. Following the theoretical model would be a massive, I don't want to say disaster, but for sure it's not the best approach, because simply these guys can give us way more chips than we would. They have some particular tendencies that we can exploit and earn a lot. So we'll try to spot these tendencies. We'll try to spot these tendencies and basically play non-optimal game theory strategy. And not many 4x's in big blinds range, definitely jamming. He's a random guy. I wouldn't be surprised to get white calls. We haven't faced dunk bets, we haven't faced any raises. Most of the time players just fast play. So yeah, it's worth also having that in mind, that non-dunk bet river, one whole card straight. So it's worth knowing that actually this guy might be slow playing from time to time, so it might prevent us from bluffing in some situations. Right, for now we know that this guy has been limping on the button, so he's generally passive. Now we see some dunk bets. Right, this is raised pot, our opponent checked, definitely potting. You see some really non-optimal line from our opponent. And this is interesting. We went for 3/4 probe and face a raise on a deuce. It sounds like it could be a flush draw, I don't know, but the deuce doesn't really change much. I'm totally okay with calling the jam, so I'm raising over. Yeah, set of deuces could be here, but I'm not. But obviously this is part of the range. So definitely a hand that we noticed in that Johnny B showed. So he check called the flop, right, with the jack high, if I remember well. The next one. Right, and then he dunk bet called fourth pair, so it shows that my jam with the queen 10 in the previous hand for sure was a pretty profitable move. King 4, the board is pretty dry, so I don't mind checking to give my opponent a chance to hit something, and then definitely I'm up for raising. We want to get value from a jack, from flush draws. There shouldn't be many fours or deuces, but definitely 1 BB size. This is also an information for us that that this guy might not be using big sizings. If he went for probe 25% and fold, this means that this guy most likely has sizing tells, right? Right now he limps, he bets pot size bet. Another button limper. So as you can see, these guys are passive. Against these guys, I don't want to check my toppers. I don't expect lots of C bets from them, right? So you got to observe some details like that, because the game, to get above the just level of to reach higher stakes, to get maximum value from your opponents, you have to observe their tendencies. Definitely bottling, the turn opens lots of draws. We haven't faced a raise on the flop, so I expect that lots of sevens would raise already. River is not so cool. River is not so cool. I wonder, do we have value here? There could be some nines, maybe tens, but it would be very thin to value bet, but I don't mind. Sometimes it's okay even to bet small bet size to give your opponent a chance to make a call, unless he's aggressive and we think that we might induce some stuff. Low aggression frequency, low sizings, usually run recreational players open shove way tighter than the optimal frequencies. So we should also approach calling open shoves tighter. He went for a pot size bet. We definitely jam. It's just 2BB, and he went with a pot size bet, dunk bet with open ender, right? Pot size bet, dunk bet, open ender, right? We check these showdowns, we build the game plan, we will have a bit better understanding of what's going on with this guy. Check, we definitely see bet, and we get the pot. We limp. So we got a button limper 10, one of the Broadway cards definitely hit button's range, and as usually button's pretty passive after a limped preflop, I definitely prefer going for a delay probe instead of probing, especially on cards that hit his range. We've got a king high, lots of draws. We might have the best hand here. So the question is, do we prefer value betting, or rather we prefer going for a check call? As this guy was betting with the small sizings, I think he's pretty passive, 31 aggression frequency. So we've got 17 blinds. Sounds like if button jumps, I would say it's more frequently a pocket pair than weaker ace. Could be obviously a few weaker aces, but I'll just go for a fold. I think it's mainly a pocket pair, and against this we don't have such profitable call. But okay, so our opponent called us with the king high on paired board, right? So this is also something worth knowing, that he call probe king high on paired. So he might be more of a passive and sticky opponents. Okay, so we've got an offsuited hand against the guy that showed up with donk bet pot size bet with the open ender. So with offsuited hand, we are not so happy about playing against aggressive guy, especially like below 13, because very often we can simply lose value. I mean, he can throw us out of the pot with his semi bluff, and we prefer with offsuited hands having the initiative. And yeah, and when you jump, you always give him a chance to make a call with some speculative hands. Right, so this is some sort of a passive guy. Down with pot size bet with open ender. Still open ender, especially 2-hole card open ender, is pretty strong hand. So even though it's, let's say, kind of unstandard move and might seem like aggressive, it's definitely, open ender is one of the top range. So if you do it with a gut shot or some air cards, I would look at it way differently. We face a limp at 12 blinds, and now is the thing. If we isolate, most likely we won't get action from weaker hands. So this is one of the hands that we might simply check back and play post flop. We've got a button limper, so against these guys, I definitely widen my range. I don't expect lots of isolations or aggressive moves, as this guy doesn't really do it pre-flop. I don't expect him to do it post-flop, and even if he does, you know, mid-raise, we've got a great odds, definitely calling. Half pot with the visibility and of our hand, we definitely don't have implied odds, so I'll just go for a check. No, sorry for a fold. And Jack 6, we check in position. We face a small bet, so definitely raising. There are lots of draws. It's totally okay to raise on monotone board and then consider just checking on the river, especially with our kicker. 3x, previously he was mid-raising, we're deep so we can call, but definitely we should watch out right now for sizings. If he bets above the half pot, most likely I would just fold right here, right now. Half pot is fine, especially we've got backdoors. Yeah, check, check, definitely looks like he missed his hand. And now as he 3x preflop, I think there are these high cards in his range. So I think half pot is a sizing that we could get value from these ace highs that might assume that we have a misdraw. Monotone board, sorry, straight possible board where jacks and kings definitely call half pot. I think we can increase the size to half pot. No need to bet less than that. Now on the turn, we want to again focus on kings, jacks, and tens, right? So I don't want to cross the half pot. Most likely there are not that many aces. I want to get these calls from 10 jack, maybe weaker hands. So even 3, 3.5, that would be a sizing to convince our opponent to call. And the river is very, very nice. Now, I think we're gonna get calls from tens very frequently. And again, even though we have close to pot size bet, no need to jam. I think, again, half pot as a target sizing, do the job. Piece by piece, little by little, we don't know our opponent, so there's no need to increase the size and be very greedy. Okay, he tilted, 14 BB, raise call, jack 5 offsuited. That's cool. Sandy is gonna limp. So above 16 blinds, when I face min eyes, I'm definitely calling. We're in position. And usually with min raise pre-flop, we might expect not that high sizings post-flop. So I'm totally okay with calling, as usually we're gonna have fine. We'll have fine opportunity to realize equity post-flop. Queen 3, raising. We've got limp from the button isolation. Do we have odds to call? Button limps close to all of his hands. He folded one hand on medium stack, so this gets closer. I'm not so sure how much fold equity we have versus button, but definitely, okay, 6 BB button limp fold. But definitely with the suited hands, that would be, given that we had already 2 blinds in the pot, that might be pretty nice move. So now we've got a guy, he raised 4th time in a row, so we see that he's raising quite frequently. Definitely against guys like him, we should widen our 3-bet shoving range. And now, as we expect that most likely, as he went with the raise call with jack 5, you know, he might not be the most solid player on earth. So we prefer shoving hands not that look good, but rather that have high kickers, right? So I would prefer having king 7 offsuited rather than 7-8 suited, right? Because here, having this king high, that makes us dominate his, that makes us dominate him, his medium range. Is definitely, yeah, what we expected. Coffee. Okay. We've got a passive guy, right? So he had one donk, but definitely this is something that against such passive guy that he was limp folding 6 BBs, we could even consider some limp folds at 5 blinds. I'm not a great fan of it, but definitely this is considerable. Classic limp c-bet against the big blind. Especially with the king high, there might be a situation that our opponent calls with the gut shot or whatever, and then he goes to the showdown, and we'll take it and we'll win the pot with our king high. Okay, pretty high blinds. Actually, I should have jammed here. He has 3.6. I wouldn't be surprised if he just calls. Okay. Jamming over his jack. Second pair, just checking, no need, our hand is not vulnerable, there are not that many overcards, we can check. And now, obviously there are these flush draws, a 10, we've got two streets of value, so now it's close between betting and checking. I think if we target mainly ace, 10 and a flush draw, we can bet 3, sometimes even 4 blinds, and basically bet twice. If we had some info that our opponent is aggressive, we could check, or if we had info that he's calling a lot, we could check. And this is interesting. As we said, there could be flush draws, so we're behind. 10 is gonna fold versus higher size. Ace high is the same, so if we bet, definitely lower sizing to target the 10, the ace, sometimes the 3. We're good. The ace high went for a call. Bluff catch ace high versus 2 bottle per Our opponent called the flop, then he went for double check, and the river is a king. There could be a few better kings. I think the river is also pretty nice for us to go with the bet check bet, and there are not that many 5s or 7s in big blinds range, so I don't really expect many check calls from a weaker hand, so I think I'll just check back. Okay, he went with the call with the queen jack. That's pretty wide. Not a big fan of that. Higher c-bet size. It's worth knowing, one of the obviously tells. And again, we've got pretty low SPR, right? Basically 3 to 1. Therefore, checking is totally fine, because even if we go check check, I can delay 3 BB and then jam river, get max value, and the board is pretty dry. We've got the king, so this is one of the frequent light calling combos on the flop, so I definitely prefer checking. And then, you know, we don't sacrifice anything, we can delay. There are not that many 4s or deuces, and now we give ourselves a chance to get value from flush draws, gut shots, an 8, and from the queen we'll get value anyway. And now, if we want to get value from most likely an 8, as we block queen, there are more 8s. I think simply going with the size of half pot, even though we've got less than pot size bet SPR, I think this is pretty nice sizing, because still there are these straights or flushes that our opponent hits. There are some 2 pairs that he was slow playing, and now we can easily just check fold. We haven't faced a raise on the flop, so I think there are not that many 8s. I'm totally okay with barreling. Again, half pot with the plan to go to the showdown. If we face a raise, just fold. Simple as that. People don't really raise light. There are plenty of slow plays, a few of semi-bluffs, but definitely the frequency of these semi-bluffs compared to value hands it's not good enough odds-wise to make a call. We can limp our suited hand, see how our opponent reacts versus the limps. Because if we notice that someone does not isolate frequently enough, you know, we can widen the range, simply play more hands in the limped pot. Jack 3, still, I don't mind 9.6 to limp. One of the hands that are close to jam definitely have pretty high value, so I don't want to fold them like that. Often people level themselves when you limp around 9-10 blinds, people start smelling a trap, so their isolation is not as high as I don't want to say it should be, but as the isolation is not too high, it allows us to limp wider range. Okay, we've got a limped pot, pretty dry board, just going to call. If it would be a raised pot, I wouldn't mind even raising the flop, because we could expect some calls from ace highs and stuff. Right now, I think there are more of random cards in small blinds range, so I'm totally okay with checking to prevent, with checking to give a chance to our opponent to hit something. Bit higher sizing on the river. I think if our opponent has some sort of a pocket pair or the king high and he believes that we could check the turn, that we couldn't check the turn with the 10, the higher size might also polarize ourselves a bit. Our line might look a little bit weird, so I think it's a pretty nice way to value bet, to make our opponent misread our hand. 9-10 open-ender, definitely calling. 2 Broadway board. This is not a board where people frequently battle bluff. There are not that many overcards that could come, and if they come like a king, it's good for us. So definitely I prefer just check calling. And right now we've got the 10 high. We don't want to go into check call mode. With the bet we could fold sometimes a deuce or a 5 or king highs or 10s that we split with. So definitely betting. Even though we don't represent too much, it doesn't matter that that much. Is simply saying people look at their hands, so less leveling, more of playing our hands. We'll finish this heads up and we'll call it a day when it comes to this part of the live play. We jumped king 5 and suck out 5. Okay, so we're deeper, more game coming. Right, for now we've got info that this guy went for some bluff catches. This should also give us right, this should give us some idea on how to play against him. But definitely worth trying. He's playing high VPIP, board is pretty dry. I really like testing my opponents, raising dry boards and see their reaction. Most likely, most frequently people simply fold because it's hard to have a hand on dry board. Especially if we have a hand that blocks some sort of flush draws, 2 overcards, backdoors. And additionally we have some equity. It's definitely cool hand to do so. Isolating, facing limp jam, 11 BB, limp raise, king 8 suited. That's pretty, that's not the perfect hand to do so. So it's worth noting that his limp raising range contains some hands like this, so we can more comfortably ISO call with some king 10, king 9 hands. And ISO less with some medium strength hands. Okie dokie guys, so thank you for watching and see you soon.